Good. Okay. I'd like to call the Village Council regular meeting, March 12, 2019, to order. First up, I see we have a quorum. We are missing two council members, Scoot at this time, and Mr. Epps, and we'll recognize them if they do show up. So first up is the adoption of the agenda. Do we have any additions, subtractions?
I'd like to remove under new business number 6, because there was no documentation for it. The conflict of interest and disclosure forms. I don't know what we need to talk about, so I couldn't prep for that. So if you guys are familiar with that.
Okay.
And then under unfinished business,
We did.
number 2, there was also no documentation for that as well.
For what?
Number 2, under unfinished business.
Councilmember Scoot and I had some conversation about that, and I've got some questions that may be open session, maybe closed session, so I don't know if y'all want to add some type of legal discussion in there to get some of the questions that I have answered.
For a closed session?
I mean, if it's related to the pending lawsuit, then yes. If it's just like general policy for any lawsuit, then it needs to be an open session.
Okay.
So closed session.
I can make, I mean, some of this is general, but I can take those out and ask them later.
Okay.
Can you do that in the administrative report?
Well, why don't we do that and actually have the questions so that we can see what they are, and we can do that in the work session. But if you have specifics, we can do that in a closed session. Does that work?
Specifics relating to the, what?
It's the ones that, okay, whatever you want to do. We can do it.
If it has to do with legal stuff, I just won't be in
Right.
the work session. That's the only thing I was going to add.
Okay. Can you get them, you can,
But we can talk about it before the work session.
okay. Yes, and get your questions answered. Is that good?
I'm good.
So you want to take it off?
Yeah.
What are we taking off?
Number 6 under new business, and number 2 under unfinished business.
And I don't know if Councilmember Scoot had any, I know she had some stuff to talk about in that, but I don't know, she's on the way, so I don't know what y'all want to do about that. It's up to y'all.
I mean, there's no paperwork for me to prep for anything, so I thought we had said that we weren't talking about stuff unless we had documentation going with it.
And what was the other one that you were removing?
6 on new business.
I got 6. What was the other?
2 under unfinished business.
And we're okay with keeping unfinished business second in the agenda and not flipping them?
Oh, yeah.
Or
Flip that.
you tell me, you want to flip them?
Unfinished business before we do new business.
Are you guys all right with that?
Finish that?
Okay.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to interrupt. I've had some last minute correspondence with DOT and about the new business number 2 and number 3. We could table those until the work session. I do have a 30-day extension on that contract. We're trying to get some answers, some legal answers.
On new business?
Correct.
2 and 3.
Number 2.
Okay, 2 and 3. Okay,
So you
so
want
to table to work session?
Correct.
If we're trying to get legal answers and our attorneys, I can get the work session.
We've had correspondence today, and we're good with moving forward with a recommendation of the work session for action.
Okay.
As far as the research is done.
Okay.
Are we all good with the consent agenda items?
And did I hear you say you were flipping unfinished to new?
Before
Yes.
new.
Okay, so
We're going to do the public hearings first. That's right up front. Consent items, are we going to do that when we get to it?
Yeah.
Typically, you've been adopting them as a part of your
yes,
budget.
just
Normal agenda?
is your normal agenda. Just continue that practice,
Okay,
so there's no confusion.
okay.
I'm good with those.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
I need a motion to amend the agenda to approve the agenda as amended.
So
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. Next up, we have Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag
of
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, we'll note that Councilman Scoot has joined us, and so has our planner just now, so at 5:40, 6:40. What? Okay, public comments. Do we have anyone signed up?
Mr. Mayor, while he's doing that, can you tell me, we adopted that already?
Yes.
Can you just tell me what changes were made so I can keep?
Well, what I had was we flipped unfinished business before new business.
Okay.
We removed on new business number 2 and 3 because the table at the work session because she's got to get, Christina's going to do some updated information.
Okay.
Remove number 6, consider conflict of interest disclosure form because we had no documentation for that. And then on unfinished business, and correct me if I'm wrong, we just removed 2, discussion consideration of legal services, contract policies, and expenditures. The reason for that, again, was, what was the reason for that? No documentation for that as well. So,
Oh,
but that's all we had.
that was just a follow-up from our last meeting, the same policy that we were talking about before. I know Christina and I talked about it at length. If you don't want to reconsider it, that's fine, but just to let you know.
Okay, well, there was nothing put there for unfinished business of what we had to talk about, and then we discussed, it may be, depending on what it is, what it's related to, may be part of closed session, may not, so, but they removed it because they had no documentation there. And that's all we had. So now we're at public comment?
No public comment.
No public comments, okay. So next up on the public hearings, we have one to consider proposed trail standards ordinance OR-2019-03-01, discussion and consideration for approval.
So just, you want to
Open it up. You need to open up.
Okay, I'm sorry. Need the motion to open up the public hearing for ordinance, trail standards ordinance OR-2019-03-01.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. No one signed up to speak?
No one signed up to speak.
Okay. Need a motion to close trail standards ordinance OR-2019-03-01.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. So we have discussion. Christine, is that
I
you?
just want to say, this has been on the agenda for the last couple of meetings. This is something that PRG brought forth to you all last year. You approved the trail standards in a meeting. We later discovered that it was not actually done in an ordinance format. So now we're going back and changing the ordinance that reflects that trail standards to basically say the trail build, or the builder, the developer will be responsible for adhering to our trail standards per our master plan. It's pretty much in a nutshell what that says. The planning board approved this at the last meeting. I'm sorry, the December meeting. And the public hearing was supposed to be held last month, but here we are today, and there's no comments submitted for or against the proposal. I do want to say, though, when you make the motion to adopt or deny the adoption, you need to read one of those consistency statements that are in the memo. So,
Okay. The only thing I'll comment, and this is kind of new news, I was at the, I was going to bring it up, but I saw it as I was reviewing this. CRTPO, and this may change down the road, but the newest law that the insurance companies are coming out with for accessibility is requiring all developments, including new phases of developments, requiring sidewalks on both sides of the thing. So that's like brand new. So it did say something about sidewalks on the inside of local subdivision. I was just making a note that may change. We learned about that. And then I had a question on multi-use paths and minimum of 8 feet. Is that what they're going to do on 16? Did they ever determine that? Is that going to be?
honestly, I'm not prepared to answer that. I'm not sure.
Okay, because as I just was reading it through it and stuff, those two things came to my mind for multi-use purpose and stuff like that. But I'm good. I don't have anything other to comment on that.
Can we ask are we in the public discussion portion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can we ask the planner to just provide an update and an overview of what, of the changes? I'll just say that I don't think I was here when these standards were adopted, so I don't know what these standards look like. Just a little more information would be great. Also, because our Parks and Greenway Master Plan also has standards in it as well, so I wasn't sure whether that was resolved or how that was.
I am 99% sure that they have amended that master plan to reflect the standards that they approved in their, do you recall that?
And they're in one of their PRG meetings, they made sure that their standards coincided with the village ordinances and the standards in the Greenway.
Do you want a copy of the standards?
If you have them, that would be great.
There's probably, there should be another one.
Yeah. The only change is that we added a clause to ask that developers, that developers will build the trail, and the only change says all trails shall be constructed in accordance with the trail standards, as opposed to a few standards that are mentioned in that ordinance.
The ordinance, and it's ordinance just for the record, it's ordinance 150.068. The only thing that was changed was subsection I, which basically took out what the trails must be constructed of. It says specifically in the current ordinance, mulch, asphalt, concrete, or other material in accordance with the master plan. We basically removed those terms and just put in accordance with the trail standards as approved and amended within the master plan. Those are the only changes made to the ordinance.
So the Park Greenway Master Plan, even if the changes were made within it, those standards that are there, what I'm worried about is a conflict.
Okay.
And even if they were approved, they should have been recommended for approval by the Parks and Rec Board and then brought before the council for
They were.
final approval. The master plan was?
The trail standards themselves were.
Yes, but the master plan has not been. And the reason I'm saying that is because, like I said, there's a section in the master plan that has those profiles of various standards assigned to different places. And I'm just worried that if we put this in, it's going to conflict. It could conflict with some of the standards that are there. So, I think we definitely need to do this. I'm wondering if we should just, the public hearing has been held, we should just table it and be sure that we're not conflicting with what's already in the Greenway plan.
Or would you like for us to just bring the entire master plan for solicitation?
Yeah, I could pull it up, but that's not going to do anybody else any good. So maybe that would be best. Or even just that section, because it's large, it's like 200 some odd pages. Even just that section that has the standards outlined in it. I'll see if I'll find it quick.
Well, she's looking
Just to see. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, while she's looking for that, we don't have to hold another public hearing, so if y'all table it, we're fine with taking action at another meeting without a public hearing notice.
So we table it to the work session? Would we
If
have
that's
it?
what- if that's
So
what
we're going to look at what? We're going to compare this ordinance with the master
The Greenway Parks Rec.
Greenway Parks, right, okay. And will you be able to, is that something you want to take on yourself, or do you want staff to look at it, or planner?
Yeah, is that okay?
Well, why don't we do that, and then we can make an exception and vote on it in the work session, so that we get it done.
Right. So if we could have that ready to be, if any discussion that you have or you find or conflict and stuff, we can.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, if you really don't want to adopt it on that session, you can put it on the consent for the next one. It doesn't matter to me, but Yes.
So just so we're clear, you want us to just pull the standards section of the master plan and compare it to the standards that have been amended?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're only pulling the standards from what that has regarding trails,
Correct.
right? Okay. Are you all, is the rest of the council okay with that?
I'll just
Make a motion, yeah.
Okay. So motion to table ordinance 2019-03-01, incorporating the trail standards in the Marvin Code of Ordinances, so that Councilman Scoot can work with the planner and/or administrator to reconcile the standardization of trails document with the standards outlined in the master greenway plan.
Further discussion? All's in favor? Motion passes. Next up, we have to consider adoption of ordinance OR-2019-03-02 to remove the CUP process for swimming pools in the side yard or rear yard that abuts a side yard. I'll need a motion to open the
So moved. Public hearing?
public hearing. Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Has anyone signed up? No one signed up. We need a motion to close public hearing. All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, we have discussion and consideration for approval on this.
Okay, so we've been considering removing the CUP process for pools that are in the side yard or pools that are in the rear yard that abuts the side yard. And we took this to planning board, and they did not want to recommend it, saying that they still want to see, they want to review pools in those cases. From our memo, we have reviewed some suggestions to lessen the requirements for needing a CUP, but we will present those in a future text amendment. So staff recommends to not approve this.
Okay. Per the recommendation also of planning board as well. They looked at this. Okay.
Or further direction from council otherwise.
Yeah, I'd like to understand this a little more. Only
Sure.
because, for years and years, it was always the council of, our village council, prior to Ms. Cox, that every CUP opens you up for some degree of legal challenge, right? There's always a risk, to some extent. So it was always sort of considered overkill that we would recommend, that we would require swimming pools to be approved by a conditional use permit. However, at the time, we had no landscaping and screening, and, well, I wouldn't say no, but next to no standards. So the goal was always to, once we put in an extensive landscape ordinance or code, to try to amend this ordinance requiring the CUP to instead include all the standards and screening. Ironically, I think it's one of the next things coming up is the conditional use permit for a pool. And if you see the recommendations provided by staff, they're the same 3 recommendations we provided for the last 3 conditional use permits. So at this point, it feels like, but I respect perhaps where the planning board is coming from. I just don't really understand where they're coming from. I know that sometimes we get the meeting minutes to the packet, and maybe that might help. So maybe you can.
Yeah, I can try to convey the discussion that happened during the planning board meeting. So basically, just as you said, we had this ordinance first, and then the CUP, the actual CUP, at the planning board meeting.
Yeah.
And so we discussed this in length, and they said, what if there are some certain situations where houses are aligned that even with landscaping, there are still, it's possible that a pool in the neighbor's side yard, next to the neighbor's side yard, could still be a nuisance to that neighbor. So in that case, without the CUP process, the setbacks are only 20 feet. And so they said that wasn't enough to remove the CUP process.
Councilmember Scoot, I think I know where you're going with this, is that there's 4 findings of fact. I was actually going to pull them up real fast. And so the premise is that the CUP process cannot be denied for a noise level if it meets the conditions that are in the CUP process. So I think the intent of the planning board was to look at these and see if it meets one of those standards, but if they check off, the use will not materially endanger public health or safety, it will meet all the requirements and specifications, it will not injure the value of the adjoining property owner, the location and character are submitted as and approved, and they are in harmony, in general conformity with the land use plan, then we have to approve those CUPs. So I think the argument that the noise, and Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure if we have the planning chair to chime in on this, but the noise seemed to be the biggest hang up, and so I think to your argument is you're not sure if we could deny it based on those findings of fact. Is that?
Yeah, I wasn't there, but if that was, it depends what their main concerns were. So we have a disturbance ordinance, I forget what it's called. That's not what it's called. It's got another
ordinance.
Yeah, that's right. And so, on the basis of that, you can enforce noise, but I think it would be difficult to refuse a conditional use permit application based on maybe some noise.
All right. If it's okay, we'll allow the chair of the planning board to chime in since he's here.
Sort of expand on what was said earlier. There are, unlike the application that's coming to you right after this, which is large acreage and stuff, and there'd be no problem at all. There are some subdivisions now that are configuration-wise, puts houses, a side yard against a backyard relatively close together in Marvin terms, and that's what we were concerned about. Not in general, but there are those few instances where it could be extremely close. In, like I said, Marvin terms, maybe not in downtown Charlotte terms, but in Marvin terms.
Right.
And that was the reason that, we've now, in the year, we've reviewed 2, 3, I believe it is, and there've been no questions, it's just sort of almost rubber stamped, for lack of a better, but we could see that potential, and so we'd rather be able to rubber stamp 3 or 4 to make sure that we don't let something unusual through.
So I try to remember, but I can't always. I'm looking at the packet. I think I've got 2. Thank you, John. Let me make sure I understand what's written here. So I'm looking at accessory uses 151-054, and there's one version that has 2, 3, and 4 crossed out,
Right.
and then another version that says actually it's crossed out for both. Explain to me what happened there.
What happened is at the last minute we sent this to Melanie, and she said fencing is actually required by North Carolina's state law. So we added another line that says not only do you need the screening that's required by our landscape ordinance, but you also require fencing, which in our ordinance 151.047 it does refer to the North Carolina state ordinance.
So the version that the planning board was provided.
The version that was provided was the version in the ordinance, which has the screening and the fencing, and the landscaping. The landscaping being the reason why the CUP is not necessary and what was made clear in that meeting.
But so who crossed out 2 and 3? The setback requirements.
Yes,
The staff
that's the text amendment that's being proposed.
Okay, so, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no way I would recommend that we take 2 and 3 out, because 2 and 3 require that the setback from the road meets the standard, right, from as well as every other pool. So you want to be sure that that's constantly there. Right?
Say that one more time?
Yeah.
So if you look at 2 and 3, it says swimming pool may be located in the side yard provided the principal structure has a minimum 200-foot front setback, and the pool will have a minimum 150-foot side yard. Swimming pools to be located in the side yard not meeting the setback herein shall be subject. Oh, okay. So swimming pools, so the part about the conditional use permit is what we were trying to take out, right?
Right.
We don't want to necessarily take out number 2,
The first
part of number
sentence.
2, right? Because you're still requiring that it includes the side yard and the setback of the pool, the minimum 150.
Okay.
Just a
So-
side note.
Right, right.
Because that will kind of help us understand, it'll get us closer to what the planning board is working at, right? So we want to be sure that we understand that a pool regardless is subject to those 150-foot setback. So by the time you move the pool back into that area, and you're still required to put in the 20-foot setbacks, pools can go, pools are always sort of into that 20-foot range in the back of the yard unless it's kind of a huge yard.
So if there's some language that we can clean this up to meet the same, the intent, if council wants to make a suggestion on changes, we can actually approve it with minor revisions or take it back to the planning board if you have any comments. The attorney did make a comment to me that a lot of the HOAs would have potential approval processes too with pools, so it may,
We're not always dealing with HOAs though.
That you're concerned about, but I just now noticed, in your neighborhood, you have to have approval by the HOA first. So that's kind of another level of protection.
Do you have maybe some suggested language that we could work with what's existing to encompass the intent?
I hate to override the planning board without knowing exactly what the concerns are. So I feel like maybe understanding just how extensive our new screening is. I mean, it requires, before we had like 10 feet maximum. Now you have to have opaque screening so many feet high above what's the element being screened. It's got to be a minimum of 15 feet in some cases. So it feels like that what we already require has never been more, is not less than anything we've ever approved, if you know what I'm saying. So anytime we've ever imposed a condition, in order for it to be a reasonable condition, it has never exceeded what we require in our code already. Do you see what I'm saying? So if noise is truly the issue, I don't want to discount what other things they might be saying, but I don't know that we could control that anyway. So I don't know. We could table this and we could continue to work on it. Again, I hate to do that. Until we get maybe minutes or I get a chance to listen to the audio or I can talk to them. I just hate to give up an opportunity to really take out something that's kind of been a sore for a while.
And Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, John, I think in the meeting that day, we talked about this, and we talked about this pool permit that we're getting ready here, and then some members of the planning board wanted to bring it back up after the fact, and so we in turn didn't do that, but I think it is an interest that y'all may want to maybe revisit. I don't know.
We'd be glad to, listen to any additional tweaking of the recommendation or the ordinance.
I think with some minor revision to the proposed ordinance, we could probably come to an agreement.
I feel like we could make it if we knew what their concerns were. I feel like we could.
So your concern is their striking of 2 and 3 on this?
That's just one of the concerns. The other concern is requiring a conditional use permit for a pool in general. Now that we have standards, is sort of unusual.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, but then to John's point though, there's always going to be those certain, we have one development that hasn't been built yet, that you're going to have those unique yards and situations, and all it is another checkbox to making sure we're trying to protect that neighbor, if you will, if we are looking at 1 acre lots that most of them are building and stuff. That's my concern. The way they design these, developments are sometimes it's just a funky lot that you end up with.
The biggest thing there is, we now have lots that are less than 1 acre.
Right.
And you may have, the example was that the backyard of this lot is against the side yard here, but they are smaller lots, and you end up, 20 feet away from the neighbor's bedroom door, or bedroom window kind of thing. That was the example.
So I do have a suggestion. I think that we could amend the process to include an internal approval so that so for problematic lots still need to come to the staff and receive a zoning permit of some type, but aren't necessarily subject to the conditional use permit. So the administrative staff would be able to check out the screening, make sure that it is in accord with the ordinance, and sort of give it a seal of internal approval, administrative approval, as opposed to legislative approval.
Well, and we'd need to change the ordinance to reflect that. So do you want to work with staff and if the direction of council to come up with some proposed language and perhaps bring it back to the planning board or
Sure,
straight
and then the attorney might want to look at it too. If that's fine with everyone? I think it's just worth taking conditional use permits for those away when we can.
And we can work together and try to put on the next planning board meeting, and hopefully all of us are on the same page, and y'all can go through and review it, and we're not discounting your opinions. If that's okay with y'all.
In general, we want to take, going in, with the concept of doing away with it. And then we got into the what ifs.
The what ifs.
And that's really what we're concerned with.
And if they're concrete what ifs, I think we can write those.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we table, I'm sorry.
219-0302.
Oh, right, OR 2019-0302, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Table that, so.
To work session?
I don't know, can we? No?
It needs to go back to the planning board.
Oh, okay. So next regular meeting?
Next regular meeting?
And we'll add that to,
First meeting, the next first meeting.
have them put that on your planning board agenda.
So it's not going to go back to the planning board, right?
I think
Oh,
that's
it is?
Oh, I thought it was. Are we
Oh,
not?
sorry, I'm confused.
Go back to the
Maybe
planning
we
board,
did.
which is Tuesday.
That's your motion, if you have any.
we can or can't.
It needs to go back to the planning board if it's a text amendment.
Yeah.
It needs to go back to them.
Yeah, I guess only if we're making substantial changes, then we might have to, right? Okay, so, I don't know when the next planning board meeting is.
How about the next
Tuesday.
meeting after the next planning board meeting? So whatever that tends to be, if it's one comes before the other, if you can word that out right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We want them to talk about it.
Okay, so authorize Ms. Scoot, or Councilman Scoot, to work with planner, and any other council member who's interested, to amend the ordinance as suit required, I guess, present it to the planning board for further review and discussion, and forward to the council for their April 1st meeting of, the first meeting in April of the council.
When is the next planning board?
Tuesday.
Next.
It's still Tuesday.
No, that's fine.
You can get that on there in your next meeting.
If we can get the revisions made by then.
Oh, we did it.
Next meeting is next Tuesday.
Oh, that's okay.
We don't have to have a public hearing.
No.
Yeah, we've had that. Right?
What's that?
I can't hear anybody.
No, you can have a public hearing, but you don't have to advertise.
That's right. We've already.
We already had the
Hold
public
on
hearing.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So are you finished with the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion? All's in favor? Nick? Okay, motion passes. That's all right. And next up, we have public hearing number 3 to consider conditional use permit number 19-12227 for a pool to be located in the rear yard where it abuts a neighbor's side yard. Need a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Has anyone signed up to
No.
speak for that? Okay. Need a motion to close public hearing 19-12227.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, what do we got? Who's got this one?
Me.
Okay.
Okay, so. Oh, yes, that's good.
Oh, you gotta be more.
Aye.
I do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that I am about to give herein is hearing that the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, so it's, you're up for heat? Okay.
So, the applicant's property is located at 15 Prince Valiant Drive in Marvin, North Carolina, and is zoned R Marvin Residential. Its residence is located in Valhalla Farm subdivision. The surrounding properties are also zoned R Marvin Residential. The applicant is proposing to construct a 30-foot by 42-foot in-ground swimming pool with a 7-foot by 7-foot raised spa to be located in the rear yard per the Marvin zoning ordinance. However, a conditional use permit (CUP) is required when a pool is located in a lot where the rear yard abuts the side yard of an adjacent lot. The CUP is to be reviewed by the planning board. The CUP was reviewed by the planning board and is to be approved or denied by the village council. Public hearing is required for the village council. Village council approval. The planning board did unanimously recommend approval of this pool, and from staff's perspective, the pool complies with all setback requirements. The proposed pool would not violate the intent of R Marvin Residential District, nor would it significantly impact adjoining property owners. The pool is to be located approximately 180 feet from the rear property line. This lot is wooded, and significant landscaping is proposed to sufficiently screen the side yard of the adjacent lot and help minimize sounds associated with pool use. Finding of facts. In consideration of the request for a conditional use permit, the village council will need to make the following findings. 1, the use will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and develops according to plan. 2, the use meets all required conditions and specifications. 3, the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property or the use is public necessity. 4, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located, and it will be in general conformity with this chapter in the village land use plan. Staff recommends that this request is consistent with the intent of Village of Marvin zoning ordinance. Staff has identified no effects of the proposal which would result in significant impact on adjoining properties. Therefore, staff recommends approval of CUP 19-12227, subject to the following conditions. Fencing around the pool must comply with NC Residential Code. Applicant will provide screening for pool and equipment that will comply with Marvin Code as outlined in 141 or 46J. They have submitted updated landscape plan that does sufficiently satisfy the opaqueness, the screening, fencing, and such, and all required setbacks will be met as outlined in the application. And they have also submitted a survey which does show that the setbacks are met.
The report that you read, was that the one that we have in here, or is it a different one?
This is a staff analysis, and it should be in the report.
It is in there?
Yes, it should be in the agenda.
It's right after the last. It's right after the second pool one. So that might be, yeah, go one more. Go before. You just passed it. And then the first page is okay.
I just thought I heard you say something about the 180-foot setback, and I didn't see that in here, so maybe it was just,
No, it was in there.
It's in here.
where?
It's on the second page, Mary. Right here.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Barbara.
You're welcome.
All right.
In the agenda packet, and also I provided some copies, there are pictures of the lot and the survey and the landscaping that is proposed. This is the pool? Thank you.
that the rear yard? So he's doing it in here? It's just not,
Yes.
Okay, so
This is the neighbor's rear yard.
can I ask a question? The proposed repair area, is that where the pool is?
That's the, if I can speak, that's the repair area for the septic system.
Oh, I see.
So that would
Okay.
be the septic system, the field will be in the front.
so
Oh.
can you show me where, on this
Yes, yes.
thing, how this, because I was really confused of where the pool is actually.
Pool's located right there. The spa building is there, and this is
Okay.
the 180 foot
Okay,
setback from
okay.
the neighbor's yard. So
Okay.
you can see in this satellite image, the house is located
Yeah,
approximately
and this
here.
is the property map here.
This is the side yard
Side yard, yep,
of the property that their rear yard abuts.
okay.
The house is approximately here, the pool would be right behind
Right.
the 180
Yeah,
foot.
yeah, which clearly.
Still wooded.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't sure.
It's already wooded anyways, and we're still requiring them evergreens, just in case those.
Yes, the natural tree does not satisfy the screening requirements because it's not evergreen.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I got it. Okay. Any other questions? For either Rahid or the homeowner? Okay. We have to go through it.
Yeah, we've not really haven't got anything from any of the adjoining homeowners complaining or anything. Heard nothing from them.
Yeah. Do you know, Rahid, if we got any information from any other neighbors, homeowners, or
The
something?
next door neighbor, according to the satellite image, also has a pool in their yard, but located approximately the same location as the proposed pool from Mr. Maxim, and it also abuts the same side yard of the same property. So that is an additional.
But any notifications we had to make,
We did a public hearing notice, and we had, Barbie,
What's that?
did we notice the adjoining property owners and, or the,
They've been notified.
yeah.
Yeah.
The adjoining properties. Okay. All right.
No comments have been submitted. No one was in the planning board to make comments for.
I have to ask a question. It's not really related to this, but you said it was 180 feet. That's not the requirement though, right? I mean, you're not citing that as the requirement. You're just saying
No,
that it
that
happens
is
to be.
the setback.
Got
That
it,
is the
okay.
setback.
I just wanted to make
Therefore,
sure. The way it was presented, I thought maybe you
The
were saying
requirement is
comply
actually, the requirement to
from the
not,
front and the side. Yeah.
there is no minimum requirement to not need a CUP when the rear yard abuts the side yard as per the current ordinance.
Just checking. Thank you.
So we'll need a motion to approve it. Did it have to read? Someone want to take that on, the conditions, or?
Do you want to do each finding separately?
Sure.
Can I ask
We
just a
should
couple
do.
questions to make sure we have enough funds back when I drop the order? Are there other pools in the neighborhood? That your next door neighbor has a pool?
They do, yep.
And the size that your property is it 2 acres?
2 acres, yep.
All right, we can go down each one of them findings of fact. I don't have that in front of me, so.
Oh, I can go ahead. The use will not materially, oh, can I? Can I do that?
I can do it.
Oh, okay. Oh, you do have it in front of you?
Yeah, I do have
Oh,
it
I thought
now.
you said you didn't have it. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
did say that, and then I realized I did have it.
Oh, okay.
So we'll go through each one individually, and understanding if you deny any of these, this will be denied. So we'll go through finding of facts first, that the use will not material endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to plan.
Aye.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Second is the use meets all required conditions and specifications. All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Third is the use will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or the use is a public necessity. All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Fourth, the location and character of the use, if developed according to the plan submitted and approved, will be in harmony with the area in which it is to be located and will be in general conformity with this chapter and the village land use plan. All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And finally, additional review criteria stated in this chapter shall also be considered and addressed where required. There are no additional review criteria for the proposed area. use. All's in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to pass the CUP, get the number right here, number 19-12227 for a pool located where it butts a neighbor's side yard. I'll need a motion for
So
that.
moved.
All's in favor?
Well, wait, with the proposed conditions?
I'm sorry. With the proposed conditions, I'm sorry. I'll add that, but fencing around the pool must comply with NC Residential Code. Applicant will provide screening for pool and equipment that will comply with Marvin Code as outlined in 151.046J. And 3, all required setbacks will be met as outlined in the application. Need a motion for that?
So moved.
All those in favor? Motion passes. Aye. Thank you. Congratulations.
Have fun.
Good luck with that. How soon will you be done, being that you're a pool guy? Yeah, as soon as the rain starts, right? Yeah. Everything is stopped right now, so good luck with that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll be praying for good weather. All right, next up we have reports and updates. We have administrators report.
I just have 3 quick things to report. Roundabout lighting, this has been on y'all's agenda for the last couple of meetings. We are actually working with DOT to get an approval, and we're having a little bit of hiccups with them, so we may have to come back for additional approval on some amendments to that plan that we had brought forth to you all back in, I think, maybe December.
Weren't they the ones that told us to do that?
They told us that we had to go through Union Power to do it, but they have to approve the plan, and they have to have all these requirements as far as the all kinds of technical information.
Plan wasn't detailed enough.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
So we may have to come back and revise that plan. It may end up costing a little bit more than what we initially thought.
This is for the lights that were required.
Yeah. So that's why it hasn't been done yet, because DOT is
Okay.
requiring some more stuff from us.
So it's in DOT's court.
Correct.
Okay.
So you're waiting on them?
No, they're waiting on us to get technical data to them.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
which we have to get from Union Power. Just wanted to remind you all, in one of the previous meetings, y'all had discussed finance documents and trying to locate them in the V drive. I sent an email, just wanted to follow up to make sure everyone was on the same page. I did actually find those documents after speaking with our finance officer in the back. They were just in a file that I didn't know where it was. So all that stuff is actually there. I sent y'all the email, so I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that it wasn't missing and it was in fact there. Last thing is law enforcement. We've had some discussions about law enforcement over the last couple of meetings. As you see, we have a new deputy here tonight, and I'll introduce her in just a second. I have had a meeting with her command staff in reference to her contract. We are working through some of the issues that we have as far as scheduling is concerned, and I think we've come to an agreement and trying to reconcile that. So I think we're okay. I think we're going to move forward in a positive direction, and that's pretty much it, unless there's further direction from council. I did actually reach out to a couple of those municipalities that y'all have directed me to do so. Stallings was not interested, just pursuant to the geographical proximity. And Waxhaw, we actually had a meeting last week or the week before. They said they would respond to a request if necessary. However, they didn't really feel like it was in their scope of desire. So that's kind of where we've left it. And that's all I have.
Any other questions from council? Or for staff?
I do want to introduce Officer Ramsey. She's new, and I don't know if you want to flip the reports or if you just want to say hey and you can.
Go over the reports, or I looked at the reports. I don't know if we have any. There wasn't much to report.
Yeah, and we potentially may be changing up the way we're doing those reports. Her and I are going to have a conversation about that. I don't think she's fully prepared to answer a lot of questions. She's been in training this last week, so she's just kind of getting acclimated to the environment here. So I hadn't really told her to prepare to make a presentation tonight. Just want to introduce her and say hey, and if you'll have any questions.
Have you been trained on the radar gun yet?
That's what I'm in class this week for.
Okay.
I'll be radar and LiDAR certified Friday.
Certified on Friday?
Mm-hmm. And
Okay.
working Saturdays.
Tickets on Saturday?
That's what
Just putting everybody on notice. She's got to be legit come Friday. So I know that was a big thing for, Ed and stuff, so, any other questions for, okay,
Welcome aboard.
welcome.
Thank you, glad to be here.
Thank you for being here.
Hopefully Dave's different, so I'll put a little pep in everything.
Well, big shoes to fill, because I know Ed was, I don't know if he told you, but National Night Out, and you have some time, obviously it's in August and stuff, but he was one of the guys that went around and really helped us out and got to know the communities, the neighborhoods, I guess I should say, and we could probably get you even a contact list at some point of the HOA presidents and stuff, because a lot of times they want to do something, or they can offer, whether it's just financial, it helps with our budget and stuff, so Ed was real good about
Ed
doing
got me
that.
that list.
Okay, good.
That's pretty much what I need for that.
Great. Well, that's awesome. So, well, thank you again for being here. All right. Anything else for Christina? Somehow in all this movement, now there it is. Okay. Next up, planner's report. Ravi?
Great, thank you. We got a few items on my report. So Barcroft, we finally concluded that they are able to commence construction without a bond because they don't have final plat. So they will be commencing construction shortly, and they have submitted the appropriate land development permits
As of?
as of last week.
Okay.
Barcroft is the one on Wadsworth.
Yeah. Barcroft's on Bondsboro.
Correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Yeah. And that's across from the large property, right? That's the one, how many homes? 20?
27.
27, yeah. Okay. So we're finally moving on that.
They are.
Okay.
Tullamore Greenway, we finally did get to record the easement for the phase 2 of the Tullamore Greenway.
Okay.
And so as that easement is recorded with Union County Register of Deeds, that is also ready to begin construction as soon as Derek and the surveyor confirmed that everything is good with the drainage there.
Okay. That easement, is that the one that we walked, Chris, in the back of,
No, he's talking about the one in Tullamore. It's
Oh,
because
Tullamore.
The initial path was in Tullamore, and this is continuing the path.
Okay, yes,
and
yes.
We had to move the path because of where the.
I get Preserve and Tullamore mixed up, my mind is, okay, very good, okay. Good?
Good, right. So Amber Meadows, which is that neighborhood right next to Tullamore and Tullamore, have had a lot of drainage issues, as I just mentioned. Several residents have complained about drainage issues, and we're in coordination with our engineer and with Pulte to figure out who's responsible for fixing which issues, and we also have the issue of maybe withholding the bond so that we can use that money to fix some of the issues there. But it's starting to resolve that if the issue is on the owner, if it's on the owner's property, it might be an issue that they have to deal with between the HOA and the developer. But if it's on the street, then that's an issue that we can help them with.
Okay. And where are we at in Amber Meadows with the trail? Does anyone know?
We're waiting on the check. They're
Check's
supposed
in the
to
mail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we know what that check is for?
$11,000.
Okay, is that enough to,
It is not. I think. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's 17,000. So we're just going to pay the difference.
okay.
It should be in your CIP plan.
It is.
Okay.
So when's the last time we contacted them on that?
It's a weekly contact.
Okay.
We're in communication.
Okay. Nick?
Are you done with your,
I have one more item.
okay, do that now.
Okay. So Marvin Gardens is an issue that we've been dealing with the problem of, does our current Marvin Garden ordinance meet the new construction plans that have been submitted? And we've decided that in the ordinance it does mention that any additional plans, regulations will be included in the items that bind the developer to that ordinance. So the construction plans that were approved by DRB and later by Village Council will be sufficient, and for the differences, they have submitted a conformance report as per our ordinances as well.
And if you don't mind if I jump in, if that's okay. We actually met with our attorney and their attorney, I think March 1st, I think, if I recall correctly.
That's correct.
And we looked at the initial ordinance, and it was pretty strategic that it actually highlighted like what was there and then the future submittals that would take place. So it actually encompassed a lot of the future language in that initial ordinance. So we felt like the legal counsel both felt that we didn't need an ordinance rewrite after we looked at that. Our engineer is actually reviewing the submittal, the plan submittal in comparison to the development standards that were in the original ordinance right now, and they hope to be done with that review this week or next week.
And then they should start?
I don't know when they're going to start. They're just waiting on their zoning approval, or their permit approval from now, and then they'll make their timelines from there.
Have we given them everything they need from us?
Up to this point, we can't do anything until
Our engineers.
Until their
They're waiting on
engineers,
our
yeah.
engineer.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, because I think originally when we talked about the ordinance, it was concern over the filing, right? It was concern over the state of the file and which plans apply and which ones don't. So now that we do have a planner, I think we did some inventory work in terms of what applies. We might, if it's not the greatest time to give direction, but if we could just make sure or suggest that you go through the file and be sure that those plans that are now applicable and approved are clearly marked as such, while the other plans, don't throw them out, are also there.
And you did a great job kind of compiling the inventory of plans that was initially submitted, and then this last submit on, we'll use that as a document for guiding. This kind of replaced that in terms of what was the final submittal. It's a little bit complicated and a little bit confusing because there were envelopes and portions of the parcel that weren't approved as the last revision. For instance, the residential development had nothing to do with this last approval. However, it still applies to that original ordinance. So we have to make sure we keep that part separate. So we kind of have this inventory that this plan supersedes that plan because it was the final approval. So that's pretty much what we're going by when we look at.
There's no chance the home's going before the development, I assume, right? Okay.
They haven't had the DRB approval, so, well, I can't say there's no chance, but they haven't been approved on the residential from the DRB standpoint.
Okay.
So if that document works that I provided and you're able to read it, then maybe we can include it in the file. And that way, because we don't know who's going to be here, we said, good thing we were around, because we don't know who's going to be here to look at that file. We want to be sure they know what applies. So that's great.
I guess one of my questions had to do with zoning laws. Have we heard anything from DOT as far as Super Street and where they're?
We're meeting, they're hosting a workshop this Thursday, and I'm going to be going to that. So they're going to be meeting with first officials, then the public, to inform everyone and work on the plan for that. So we can get back to you on that the next meeting.
Okay. And the other thing was, do we have any updates on what's going on with the Howard property?
We haven't heard anything of it.
The 100 acres.
We haven't
100-acre
heard
forest?
anything.
Never. Which who was supposed to be going in there? Originally, we thought it was going to be.
Thales Academy, is that?
No, that's across the street.
That's across the street. The main portion of the Howard property.
I think we talked 67 homes, I thought.
Broadmoor?
I can't remember the name of it right now.
Is it Broadmoor?
I think it's Broad.
Broadmoor.
It might be Broadmoor, yeah.
So
But that, was that sold again, that property, or do we even know?
Can I make a
Yes.
question? The last we had talked to them, they had missed their opportunity last year, and so because of the timing of approvals and things, and so their plan was to do infrastructure work this spring. And so they have not, we actually talked to them recently, and they haven't given us a date yet when they're going to start.
have they submitted any kind of?
Not anything new, no. But their goal was, they had some internal issues where the project got pushed back and things like that, and then, like I said, they missed their opportunity, and now with the weather being so bad, so they just have not formalized when they're going to move forward.
And Nick, to your comment, when I was at the CRTPO meeting, they did say like I was asking about, they were going through the whole list of wish list and all the things they had, but the one that was on there was Bonds Grove, and NC 16, and they said they've just basically got rid of, they're off the list because they know the widening coming through, no sense going in, and then coming back and tearing it up. So all of those are off that kind of stuff along 16 and stuff. So, anything else for everybody?
That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Okay. Next up, we have deputy report. She's left because we gave her up. So, everyone have a chance to look at that? Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Next up, the roads report.
I don't have anything specific other than what's in the agenda packet as a consideration item.
We'll get those. Let me see if I can. They were in the packet.
Do you want to talk about that now, or you want to talk about when we get there?
So we'll talk about when we get there.
Yes,
Okay.
It's not behind it.
Okay. So we go planning board chair report. John Jones, next up.
Well, we touched earlier on the bulk of what we covered at our last meeting, which was the conditional use, and both is revising the ordinance, but also for the current approval. So I'll just sort of skip over that. But I will say that led us into another. We wandered a little astray there when we were researching the ordinance, and I can't remember exactly how it came up, but the conversation came up about the conditional use permits versus the individual conditional district. And several of us said, well, that's no longer valid, and someone told us that. We couldn't remember how or who or what. And afterwards, I remembered where all of us had seen that it was no longer valid and no longer part of the ordinance. It was in the land use plan that we are reviewing, revising, et cetera. Now, there were several comments in there that Marvin had the individual conditional use district, but it has been removed from the ordinance. It's no longer valid. But it is still in the ordinance. It is 151.092, which is still there. And
092 shouldn't be there.
Shouldn't be there.
it's in there.
151-03.
151.092. Is that what I said?
Yeah.
It's in there, or at least it's in the copy I've got that was given to me.
Because, I mean,
And
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. But we did, my best recollection is we did get rid of it.
Yeah, it's outlined in 151.030. I don't want to interrupt.
because
Go ahead.
I went back to the ordinance, the ordinances that I've got, that I was given a year ago.
Okay, I have the
And-
2019, so I'll look it up while you're talking.
Can
Anyway,
you say that ordinance number again, so I can write it down?
that's the reason. Anyway,
Sorry.
One sec, John.
okay.
Go ahead. Mary, you want to
Mary,
get?
can you repeat that ordinance number just so I can write it
Oh,
down?
151.030.
030.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
For a different purpose, but yes.
Anyway, we had traded a couple of emails, raising this question. And, and Councilman Scoop said that, it's there, but it's not applicable now, or something to that effect. And I don't understand how it can be in the ordinance if it's not applicable.
And I want to apologize. I got a contract this week. Yeah, a job.
Well, I'm not.
And I
I'm
didn't
not-
respond back, so I just want to apologize while you're here. I forgot about that.
No, I'm not casting stones there. I'm just saying that, we had
I did
been.
not. I just feel bad. Going back and
You were
forth.
you were the only one that I knew, whenever I finally figured out why we thought that it was no longer valid, and then we found it, and so, I don't know.
It's confusing, and you guys need clarification, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was saying, we either need to revise the land use plan as we're working on it, or the ordinance, or some clarification or something, so somewhere along the line, we don't get in trouble.
I just want to add to that in my book, this is 2017 151.030, section E, does mention the process for applying for a conditional district. So does that mean sometime in the last 2 years we removed that section?
Well, and then, like I said, though, and then it referenced 092, which is the
Yes,
individual
which is the
conditional
individual
district, which is still in my book. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. What did you say about the
I
your
just
code?
wanted to ask, since this is 2017, is it true that sometime in the last 2 years, the section E in 151030 and section 151092 were removed or something, or revised, and that this book is not the most up-to-date book?
Right, so what I've done is I regularly download a Word version from the website. So the one I'm looking at right now, I downloaded this one in January 2019. And so I will just quickly check. I don't think 092 is in there. Oh, it is in there. Why? Wait a second, hold on a minute.
Are you in
Yes.
03?
I'm, okay, but here's the problem. I don't know why it's there, because I did, for this exact same reason, I went and I checked the minutes. And I pulled up the minutes saying, and the ordinance, I don't have it off the top of my head, showing that it had been approved, that the removal of this section had been approved.
Do you know?
So I don't know why it's not in this codification.
Do you know when?
Do you know what minutes?
It would have been 11/2015.
2015?
Yeah, 11 or 12, month. November or...
November or December?
November or December, yeah,
What year?
2015.
2015?
Wasn't that the last election?
It could have been rescinded and it just didn't get picked up by American Legal. So we just need to look in the index, the ordinance index, to see if there's been any ordinance in the past
So,
that rescinded it.
I mean, I know I was there, and I know I voted against it, forget rid of it, but I guess, when was the election? So that would have been...
So it was 2015, and then that motion was passed before the new year. So it was either November or
Well, that'd be after we were sworn in.
Yes, so that would have been what, December? I think?
December.
Yeah,
It would have been December.
December. And you know what, I probably even have it here, if you want to give me a second, because I looked into it, and I kept it in
I
my
mean, I know we
folders.
got rid of it.
They have the last ordinance being passed on the American Legal website, 1/2016. For 092.
Oh, you mean the last codification or the last ordinance?
This is ordinance.
That could mean.
It was 01/01/16 was the ordinance number, or 2016-01/01. What it's saying at the bottom.
But that could be the educational overlay too.
Because I thought the screening...
This is for under 151092.
Oh, okay, I'm on those, yeah.
Oh.
I'm sorry, it's got the same date.
As the following individual conditional districts are established, Courtyards at Marvin and Amber Meadows.
Right, and the most recent date is 1/20/2016.
Oh, when it does,
It's past January 2016. That's what it's, I'm just going off American Legal site.
No, that's good. I'm wondering why then my 2019 download is not showing that. That's interesting.
The 030 that you referenced earlier has that same date.
And that should. So now I'll address the distinction between 030 and 092. So, and I can't remember the overall heading, but 092 is what would have allowed someone to apply for development under that zoning district. That was removed. So if someone came to submit an application to rezone their property, they wouldn't be able to do it because 092 is not there. However, 030 simply delineates what zoning districts we have in place. And because we did approve 3 or 4 ICDs already, we have to have 030 there, and we have to have the individual conditional district outlined as something on our zoning map. But it doesn't mean that you can apply
Well,
to
like I
it.
said, I found the 092 still in the book.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other issue.
Staff can go back and look, because there could be the slight chance that either the ordinance didn't get sent.
Hiccup that needs to be cleaned up.
Yeah. Staff will look into it. I mean, there could be the slight chance that it didn't get sent to American Legion or, American Legion. Or they just overlooked it. So we'll look into it.
I know, I remember.
We'll get an answer.
But I did pull up the minutes, and the minutes delineate and include the ordinance. So that's all I can tell you. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
So it was a worthwhile wandering that we did.
Yeah, it was
There you
good.
go.
It's good.
Okay.
Anything else?
Oh, I got a question.
Oh.
Where are we with the survey?
We are in the process of trying to schedule a subcommittee meeting. We're having some hiccups with availability and trying to get folks together, so we're still trying to plan a meeting, but we are actively doing it. We've sent probably 3 rounds of emails at this moment.
So it's a committee, it's not the full planning board,
Correct.
correct? It's your.
There's a slight chance we're trying to get together maybe before the planning board meeting. We're still working on that, waiting on some folks to reply, so.
I mean, I really thought we'd have this done in the fall, so we need to,
And we started talking about it this time
last year, yeah. So, anything we can do to
My hair looked
poke
like
and
this
prod
last
that
year.
along?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's not really any fault of John's. I mean, we're
Sure
trying
is.
to get it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Trying to
Just
get it
kidding.
resolved. So we'll get it hopefully before, Barbie sent out another email today, I think, with trying to get some more dates and times of availability, so.
And Mary, do you have your questions for them?
I have those ready. It's not so much me. I think it's just coordinating dates, yeah. But we thought perhaps if I'm available, then I could go to a planning board meeting, but we haven't thrown that option out yet, I don't think. So we'll see.
Imagine if we had 7 people working on it instead of 3.
Okay. Any other questions for John?
I have one more thing to add to the ICD discussion, because 150130 also references 151.251, which is called zoning amendments conditional district, and in this section it says, this section provides the means and processes by which a conditional district may be established, repealed, or otherwise amended in the village of Marvin. So,
What was that number?
151.251.
Yeah, that's the procedures.
I think the
And
assumption is
application
if there was an ordinance that may have gotten missed, it should have kind of annihilated all of those. So we just need to look to see if something got missed.
So I just want to add that to that number to the discussion as well.
Okay. Yeah, that one's a little bit different, but, because that doesn't outline an actual zoning district. It just provides, how do you amend the zoning map to a conditional zoning district? So that's the procedures for that.
Okay.
So that should be amended as well.
No, not really, because what'll happen is, in the zoning district standard, it will reference the amendment, section 251, and it will say, if you want to apply for a zoning district, you have to provide everything that's required in that section. So that one shouldn't need to be
I
amended.
guess except for the word may be established, right?
Well, we do have other conditional districts, though. So even though the ICD is gone, we still have other conditional districts that would follow the processes in 251, and those would be new zoning districts. Oh, I see what you're saying. No, it would still be, they're still established, they're still rezoning from one conventional district to a conditional district. That's what 251 does.
Okay. So,
We can talk about it later.
okay.
Okay. We're going to call for a quick recess
Okay.
for bio break.
I can talk about it all day, but I know they.
Yeah.
Did you just call it?
But since I guess we have a break now.
Okay, sure.
So, just for semantics, doesn't changing the
Thanks,
district
John.
from one district to a commissioner